Hello everyone and welcome once again to the vast and ominous comic book vault. I'm Captain Logan and here with me by phone is the amazing Browncoat Eric.
I am crap. Because I found out I'm allowed to say that word here.
Today we're reviewing Batman Earth 1, which I feel like we've been waiting for about 6 years.
Just right off the bat, can I just say, if you're going to make us wait like 2 years for each of these, which by the way, it's not a movie, I shouldn't have to wait 2 years for it, but if you're going to, it needs to be longer than 140 pages. It needs to be like 200 minimum.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things where clearly they didn't mean to make us wait this long.
Yeah, well, Gary Frank's the slow artist.
Yeah, but I don't know. Well, let me ask you this then. Just jump right into this. Was it worth the wait? I mean, I thought it was quite good, but like, I'm sure based on
it's my favorite take on the Batman origin.
Wow, you're gonna go that far?
Well, you have to remember, I'm not the world's biggest Year One fan, so it's not as big a statement for me as a lot of people.
Wow, that's interesting. And I find that ironic because you're such a...
I think a lot of other things don't do right, which we'll get into.
I find that ironic because you're such a Frank Miller fan, because Year One is one of the only Frank Miller things I think is really, really, really solid.
And it's one I'm not particularly fond of.
Interesting. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and jump right into this. For the folks that haven't read this yet, we're going to talk about this just for a couple minutes and tell you if we recommend it or not, and what we think about it broadly. And then after that, those of you that haven't read it, if you want to, you can go ahead and stop listening, and then we'll go ahead and really dive into this for the folks that have. And Eric's really wanting to dissect this some, and he's been begging me to do a video on this for a couple weeks now, and I finally was able to get my hand on a copy. My store didn't have one.
I just wanted to talk to someone else who had read it about it.
Yeah. So, right out the gate, Eric, do you recommend the book to those that have not read it, and why?
I absolutely recommend the book. I think it's a really great, fresh retelling of Batman's origin that, given that Gary Frank and Geoff Johns did Superman's Secret Origin, and I wasn't crazy about that, and I thought it was just a lot of rehashing old stuff, I think this is a really, really good reimagining of Batman's origin. It's different enough that it justifies its existence as an alternate Batman, but it's still got everything there. And I think I just think it's a good story. It has one major flaw, which I'll get into when we actually review it. But other than that, I think it's very good.
I'm going to say I think this is a wonderful companion piece to Superman Earth 1. I think that if you really liked that, you'll probably really like this. I think it does similar things in that, which is interesting because it's done by entirely different people, that being JMS. And I think that they're similar in that when you open the book, you feel like you're in a place that's almost completely unrecognizable. I mean, the names are the same, but the faces seem very different. Sometimes even physically, the faces seem very different. And then when you get to the end, it becomes something a lot more recognizable, and the characters kind of, a lot of them become more or less what we're used to. And I think that the same thing could be said about Superman Earth 1. It also has a new villain that's done in the in kind of the classic crazy Batman villain style, which I think it also has in common with Superman Earth 1 in that it created a new villain and felt like a villain that could have existed in other Superman comics before. I think that I think it does a fantastic job, like you said, of being a fresh Batman retelling, and also I feel like it borrows from some interesting places. There's definitely some Batman Begins here, but not in the way you might expect. Mostly
and there's definitely some Year One as well.
Yeah, mostly just with taking a particular character and putting him in the same role he was in Batman Begins, and also there's weirdly some Superman Returns here, or some Batman Returns here also, and I don't want to really spoil where that is until we really get into this. But
and something else I want to say that is very different with this from Superman is that Superman was very much Clark Kent, Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen, Terry White.
Yeah.
This is full of references to other things and setting up other things. It's whereas Superman just had that little who destroyed Krypton thing. Like if Superman Earth 1 never got a sequel, it wouldn't be like a tragedy, like it's just a great retelling of Superman's origin. With this one, this feels like the first story arc in an ongoing run.
That's interesting. I didn't have the same experience with it.
Oh, see, because I felt like it set up so much stuff and it made so many references to things that we don't see.
I agree with you. I think it does that, but I think it makes references to a lot of things that are familiar enough that once it gets to where it gets to at the end, you can more or less expect them to happen the way that we remember them.
I guess that's true, but I think because the events of this book were so different, I just kind of assumed that he was going to go other places. I'm interested to see them.
Yeah, and very well could, and I hope we get a sequel to this. So anyway, again, for those of you that haven't read this, I'm with Eric. I absolutely recommend it, and you should totally read it. Now, we're going to go ahead and get into this for people that have read it, and Eric, where would you like to start?
Can I actually start with my one major complaint?
Yeah,
let's get that out of the way.
Let's do that, sure.
The new villain is completely superfluous and could have been a number of other villains from Batman's Rogues Gallery.
Wow, that bugged you? I liked it.
I felt like if they just wanted a serial killer, he should have been somebody like Zaz. And if the child thing was needed, it should have just been Mad Hatter. I thought he was kind of superfluous and could have been a number of other Batman villains.
Did it remind you at all of the child killer from Spawn?
Yes. It actually reminded me a lot of him.
Of Billy Kincaid?
Yes.
I just mentioning that. I don't know. I kind of liked that it was superfluous, and I'll tell you why. I was not, and maybe I should have been, because I actually went ahead and gave this another skim after I read it, because I wanted to make sure that that I picked up everything for when we talked about it. And on a second read, obviously, like you would expect, because this is a really tight narrative, I picked up a lot more stuff as I read it, and I realized how, in my mind, that it was actually kind of neat that was a villain that was sort of generic, because it made me not at all expect the Penguin. Even though the mayor keeps getting mentioned, like early on, there's an evil mayor, but at no point did it occur to me, it's someone I've heard of before, and B, it's a major Batman villain. And so the Cobblepot reveal is excellent, and I think a lot of that is because of a generic villain I'd never heard of before.
I think there's two big reveals that work very, very well, and I do think the fact that all these interviews or whatever, going back even to when they first announced the line, was that this was going to feature a new villain. And I just assumed it was going to be like Earth 1, where it was just going to be that villain. I think you're right. I think it does work on that level.
You said there were two good reveals. What was the other one?
Alfred missing a leg.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I thought that was a great reveal that I really didn't see coming. Alfred is completely rehauled.
Yeah, he's a completely different character in this, and I loved him. And you know what he reminded me of? This version of Alfred.
Dawson?
Sorry, what's that?
I said Joe Dawson, because he's totally just Joe Dawson from Highlander.
Oh, I don't know that reference.
Okay, like 6 people that watch your channel are probably going to get that. He is literally like the same character. Like, he's kind of hardened. He's crippled. The scene at the end with Penguin is literally a scene from Highlander Endgame, where there's a dude setting up a cipher to shoot Duncan, and then he just comes in and blows him away. Like, he's so much Joe Dawson, and I loved it, because he's one of the best parts of the Highlander TV show. So.
Well, I was actually going to make a reference that's much, much more on the nose. The Alfred in this was the Alfred from the pilot script of the WB show that never got made. I don't know if you've ever read that, but that's this guy.
You said you were going to send me the link, and you never did. So.
Oh, sorry about that. But anyway, that's who this is, because that version of Alfred was supposed to carry a gun and kick butt, and that's precisely what this is. This Alfred is a former Marine who shoots first and asks questions later, and
I think part of it is because normal Alfred has that background. I think the difference is this uses that background.
Yeah, absolutely.
It brings it to the forefront as a defining characteristic.
And that's where I got off earlier saying that at the beginning it feels like people just have their names and are totally different with similarities, and by the end he is Alfred.
Yeah. One of the scenes I liked a lot with Alfred was when they give Alfred custody of Bruce, and he talks about not being a father, and when he goes in, he just says, "I'm your butler."
Yeah, I love that.
I thought it was a great way to take. One of the things I think this book does really, really well is take what you know and turn it on its head. I think it really did that with Gordon. I think Gordon is I think it got it, and you said that he. I assumed you were talking about Gordon when you say it's pretty much the same place he is in Begins, right?
No, who I was referring to there was Fox. Fox
was actually kind of weird because he's a kid.
Yeah, but I just mean that they have him in that role.
Oh yeah, they absolutely
because
okay,
Batman
okay,
Begins.
I thought you were going to go Gordon.
Batman Begins invented.
I thought he was in such a different place than you normally see him.
Yeah, I was just going to say that Batman Begins invented the idea, for people that don't know, of Fox making weapons for Batman. That's not what he did before.
Up to that point, up until that film, Fox was kind of the guy that runs Wayne Enterprises.
Right, and they made him because Nolan's a big Bond fan, so he wanted to have some Bond in there. But anyway, yeah, I agree with you with Gordon, but you said it turns it on its head. It does that, but not in an illogical just we're doing this for the sake of doing it kind of way.
No, not at all.
I had this with a lot of characters where at first I went, oh, if he's not smart, I'm not going to like this person. And with Gordon, it was like, oh, he's on the take. I never expected to see Gordon like that, and then ultimately he has a really good reason for it, and then his whole character arc is that he becomes something much more of the Gordon that we know at the end, where he figures out how to fight that corruption, even though originally he's part of it.
It happens. It's both in. I guess it's less in Begins, but it's really strongly in year one. Is that Gordon is only maybe like 5-10 years max older than Batman. Gordon's a young guy who's just come to Gotham and is trying to be like the straight cop in the crooked city. And what I like is that Gordon's already an older guy who's just been broken by Gotham. That's actually something that I found really interesting with this whole thing was it really felt like Gotham in its own way was a character, and that everyone that comes into Gotham is forever changed by it. Harvey Bullock is changed by it. Gordon's changed by it. Bruce is changed by it.
What I like about all that is that, well, first of all, like you said, with Gordon being older, I mean, he looks here like he does in No Man's Land. And
yep.
What
I like that, because it's not what you expect from an early Batman story.
What we usually expect when we open a story like this that is going to be yet another retelling of Bruce Wayne's origins is that it's going to feel like Batman a lot younger, and then at some point you would want to flash forward to like present day Batman. This in somehow, because I'm surprised this worked, in a really satisfactory way, it doesn't feel like Batman Year One or something. It feels like this sets up the regular status quo for Batman, and you could start telling just regular Batman stories, and especially with the ending with this, with the Riddler reveal, it's like we could just start telling regular Batman stories the next day.
And I'm actually going to disagree with you a little bit, and that was something I really liked about the book, was that I felt like this book, better than any other version of Batman's origin, did that early Bruce Wayne better than anyone else I've seen. Because everything else, Year One, Mask of the Phantasm, Batman Begins, it's always, he's Batman, he just doesn't have the tech he needs. And then once he gets that, he's just Batman. What I like is that he's emotionally not there yet at the beginning of this book, and at the end is when he really is mentally, at least on the road to being Batman.
Right, yeah, I agree with you, but I'm just saying that he does seem to be pretty mentally ready for it at the end, so you could, for the most part, pretty much just start telling regular Batman stories.
I guess you could. I kind of see the potential to harden him up a little bit and develop him a little bit more throughout the stories, which I think was really smart to leave.
Yeah.
That you could kind of keep working with Bruce. Like, I really liked that about this Bruce. I thought this Bruce was fascinating in that he was kind of a little bit of spoiled brat.
He was, and I got a couple of criticisms about that though, and I don't know if this is really a problem or not, but I just got to ask you because I'm wondering if maybe you picked up on something I didn't. But at the end, I kind of wondered why he felt the need to keep going as Batman, because more so than any other version I've seen, he put on the Batsuit pretty much to figure out his parents' killings, and
that's what I liked about it.
I like that too.
He put the Batsuit on just to find out who killed his parents.
Right.
And then when he finds out he was nobody, he's like, well, if there isn't this giant conspiracy and Gotham's just that bad, I have to be Batman.
Okay. I honestly didn't really pick up on that as the motivation. It felt a little rushed to me at the end. It really felt like, well,
this book needed to be a little bit longer.
I've got to keep going as Batman because I have a costume now. And that's really how it came off to me. But I'm with you. I think that's how they wanted it to come off, and so it's okay. I think it needed some more pages. I'm with you.
It did. 4 pages is too short. It should have been at least 200.
I'm going to say that my single favorite part of this was Harvey Bullock.
I loved Harvey Bullock, and Harvey Bullock is probably my favorite Batman supporting character. I love Bullock, and when he first showed up, I was like, I don't know if I like this. And then just everything that they did with the character after that opening scene, I thought was brilliant. I thought making him basically Gordon from year one was great.
Yeah, it was a really cool idea, and like you said, turning things on its head. At first, I was going, "See, you guys are just doing things for the sake of doing it." You're like, "Well, Harvey Bullock's usually a fat guy. Wouldn't it be clever to make him thin?" No, that's not the clever thing. The clever thing is that he's not a drinker, and he sees something horrifying, and he becomes a drinker at the end. And the next time we see him, he's probably going to look like the Bullock that we all know.
And
that's amazing.
And that all kind of folds into the thing about this book is that Gotham changes people.
Yeah.
You come into Gotham and you're forever changed. I thought that was brilliant.
And I loved how layered he was.
When he goes into that bar or when he goes into that liquor store at the end, after seeing the horrible things, I thought that was genius.
Yeah, I was surprised by it in a really positive way.
The Harvey Bullock stubble.
Yeah.
I found that amusing. And I love the riff that he's like a TV cop.
Yeah, that was great. But like I said, I love how layered he was. I was really impressed that the book made me, and all the way through, not just at the end. Like the book made me like him even through all that, because at first it's like, oh god, he's just this stuck-up guy who's building up his reputation, and then it's like it's more than that. He's also really idealistic. It's like he has a Hollywood sense of the world. Where,
yes, I thought that was genius when he gets out of the car to stop the pimp, and like that's the scene where you really get, you're like, he doesn't just play a TV report, he doesn't just play a detective on TV and go around. Like, he is that guy. He's got that idealistic mindset of what a cop should be. And he's never been to anywhere like Gotham, where crime is a little bit more than that. Can I talk about something that I thought was genius, and then the ending made me question it?
What's that?
Making Martha an Arkham.
I wondered about it a lot, because there's all this talk about how the Arkhams are all insane, but I didn't see really that she was.
No, I didn't really get that either. But the thing I liked about it initially was, I was like, okay, this gives Batman a connection to Arkham Asylum that he's never had before.
Well,
and I like it.
And it also physically personifies the two sides of his personality.
Yes, absolutely.
Both in his parents and in buildings he owns. Like, I really like the idea of early Bruce Wayne owning Wayne Manor and Arkham at the same time. That's creepy and interesting.
But what made it weird was at the end when they mentioned the Crane Institute. I was like, so there is an Arkham Asylum? Like that seemed weird to me when like you set that up. I'm like, all right, that's really cool. It gives him a way to it gives him a connection to Arkham they've never had before. Like how crazy is it that Batman owns Arkham? And then when they're like, oh, we'll send to the Crane Institute, I'm like, well, that's weird.
You got to wonder what he would do with Arkham. Like, the more we're talking about this, the more I'm lining up more with you, because I'm thinking I really want this to become a series and to keep going, because I got to know, like, if Arkham becomes an asylum, and if, like, Bruce Wayne is secretly throwing the people that he takes to justice in his own asylum, like, what? How does all that work?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Like if he found out that Crane was corrupt, and so he starts putting the villains in Arkham Asylum, it doesn't tell anybody because nobody's in that house. That'd be a really interesting thing.
I wonder if Johns was in any way, and this is a stretch, but I wonder if Johns was in any way inspired by the Batman of Arkham in doing that. Have you ever read that?
No, I've never read that. What is that?
That is an Elseworld story where Bruce Wayne, instead of being a billionaire philanthropist, is a really rich psychiatrist, and he actually owns Arkham Asylum, and he throws his foes in it.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's quite good. I like it a lot. But like I said, it's an Elseworld story, and I wonder if that had anything to do with this, if he'd read that.
And can I say I did like the reference drops? Like, I like the Crane Institute. I'm so excited to see John's take on the Riddler.
Me too, although I do kind of wish that the Riddler hadn't just been a tacked-on thing. I do wish that there had been something earlier to just set that up, because it's such a tight story, and then at the end, that really does feel like kind of a cheap, just, oh, cool, the Riddler, which is less cool if they never make any more, and who knows if they will.
Well, apparently we are going to get more. From what I've heard, it sounds like one of the reasons that this took so long was they didn't want this to come out at the same time as the New 52. Yeah.
And how many things have we heard that about?
But I wouldn't be surprised if at least Volume 2 was written. Gary Frank is a really slow artist. Secret Origin was a 6-issue mini that took like 2 years to come out. But the thing with the Penguin, I thought was a really, really neat twist on the Penguin, and I love that. Because you said that in Returns, and I was thinking more Penguin Runs for Mayor from the 60s show.
Oh, you're right. I forgot that's where that idea came. I bet that's where the idea came from for Returns, too.
Yeah. But what I loved about it was that it was so well set up.
Oh, yeah, it was. Because they keep talking about this evil mayor. And, can I also say, I'm sorry, hopefully this doesn't derail you too much, but it's absolutely about what we're talking about. I think that it is genius to actually physically make the death of Bruce Wayne's parents a much bigger deal for the future of Gotham City, which actually begins managed also, but this did it even more so, where it was like, if he hadn't died. I mean, they made it obvious that Thomas Wayne's running for mayor, and and they made it obvious that he would have won by a landslide had he stayed alive. And so Gotham City would not be the dark, bleak place it is if he hadn't gotten killed. And then to add insult to injury, it turns out the Cobblepot didn't even manage to kill him because it was totally an accident. Well, not an accident, but it just came out of nowhere.
I love that they set up that he was going to kill him.
Yeah, I like that too, but he didn't get the chance because just some random thug beat him to it.
I thought that was genius. But yeah, I like, and you know what else I liked that I didn't notice in any of the like pre-photos or anything really? I love that you can see Batman's eyes.
I like that too, and a lot of people are talking about that.
I don't know why. Like, I'm just like, well, superheroes just have that white eye thing, but it really works here.
Eric, are the cops after you, dude?
Can I ask a question about the costume? Because you read it twice. I only read it once, and it's just been lent out amongst my friends for the past week or so.
I think the costume looks a little bit too much like the Batman Incorporated costume.
It does. It's the exact same costume. Why does he change the costume?
I couldn't figure it out, and in fact, that was really jarring to me, because as I was reading it, I went, wait a minute, I don't remember there being a yellow circle.
I felt like for the first half, it was just like, well, Batman didn't have a yellow circle to begin with, but I want Batman to have a yellow circle, so I'll have these first couple of scenes where he doesn't have the yellow circle.
Yeah, it would have been nice if there was some actual narrative reason for it.
Oh, and can I also say with Batman, I love that he constantly gets the crap beat out of him.
Yeah.
Like, physically, he's not fully there yet either.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
He's not. I mean, he's not especially smart when he first goes out, and I like how Alfred confronts him, and really, just everything narratively works with this. I do have one question for you, and again, hopefully, this is just something I missed, but I did feel like they didn't address enough the fact that Bruce Wayne's parents' death was more his fault than it ever has been before. Because he's really a spoiled brat at first. I mean, he wants to see this movie, and the power got cut, which we find out later it got cut because Cobblepot's actually trying to kill them. And then, if I'm remembering this right, and then he runs out of the theater because he's all upset, and he's wanting to go to another theater, and then he runs into a bad guy on the street, and at first the bad guy is just like,
I'm Bruce Wayne.
Well, the bad guy just says, "Watch where you're going, kid," and then Bruce Wayne says, "Well, I don't have to do what you say. My parents are the richest people in Gotham City." And then the thug would have just ran off, but he turns around and realizes, "Oh, I'm talking to the Wayne's kid," and that's why his parents die. And I don't feel like they really addressed that later.
I think it kind of gets swept under the rug because they would have died anyways.
Because what?
Because they would have died anyways.
Well, not necessarily, though. In fact, they wouldn't have, because they left the theater to run after Bruce. And if Bruce had, they actually left the theater, and Bruce ran into that guy who just said, "Watch where you're going," and would have kept walking. If Bruce had kept his mouth shut, no one would have died. His parents' death was actually 100% his fault.
Yeah, I actually kind of like that.
His parents' death
more in later volumes.
His parents' death was as much his fault as Uncle Ben's death was Peter Parker's.
Yeah.
And he just... But the thing is, he doesn't seem to feel remorse for having caused it, and I think he would have caught on to it. He's not so young that he would notice those sorts of things. Keep in mind that when he meets Alfred, the first thing he says to him is, "Who the hell are you?" Like, he's old enough to use that kind of language. I think he would be...
Right.
I think he's old enough to understand what's going on. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a criticism I have, is that it seems like he would feel as much remorse as he would vengeance.
That's probably true. And you know what? I didn't really think of that. But you're right. Hopefully that gets addressed in later volumes.
So that is my biggest complaint. Yeah, but I feel like if it was going to be addressed anywhere, it would be here.
That's probably true. And I am excited for later volumes.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, this was wonderful. That is my one big criticism of it.
And that's a fair criticism. I mean, maybe if I read it again, I'll see something else. But off the top of my head, I don't really recall anything that fixes that problem.
Well, Eric, that's all I had to say about it. Did you have any other final thoughts that we didn't get to?
I really hope Batgirl doesn't come in super early.
Me too, but she's already designed her costume.
I thought that was kind of fun, but I hope it plays out in a different way. Like, I don't want Batgirl by, Volume 3.
Yeah. Well,
but other than that,
fair enough. Yeah.
I really, really enjoyed this. I thought this was a really interesting, different take that's still true to everything. I thought it set up a lot for later volumes to pick up on. I really want to see what Scarecrow looks like in this universe. I really want to see what Joker looks like in this universe. I'm fascinated by what he's going to do with the Riddler. So yeah, I just thought, in general, I thought this was great. I think this is a great jumping on point for people, or maybe not jumping on point, that's the wrong word, but I think this is a great introductory book for people.
I do think that like a lot of things, people who already know Batman really well would appreciate this more than other people would, just because a lot of what's...
because a lot of stuff gets turned on its head.
Yeah, a lot of what's fun about it is that it's different.
Vaguely mentioned, and he has a twin sister, which I think is really funny.
Yeah, I think that's funny too.
So yeah, I'm actually, honestly, the thing I'm most interested in seeing what happens in later volumes is Bullock.
Yeah, me too. And it seems like a universe where he could be as important as Gordon.
Yeah, and I like so much about this. I really like where everybody's heading. I'm really interested to see where it all goes, and I hope that they keep putting these out and I hope that it doesn't take 2 years every time, because it's not a movie. It shouldn't take 2 years. I would love if just once a year we got a Batman Earth 1 book.
Yeah, that'd be great. On the other hand, I am really glad that this didn't come out in issues. I think it should read like this.
Yeah, this is, and it's written for the trade. That's why, like, it doesn't feel like 6 issues. It feels like Geoff Johns wrote differently.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought this was great. I would definitely, I would recommend this to somebody that wants to try something Batman. I would recommend this to somebody that's never really, like, I think this would be a great book to give to people who haven't read comics. Like maybe just saw the Nolan films and like want to read something. And I think for Batman fans, there's so much that's different and like a fun little turning things on its head that's worth reading, even if you've been reading Batman for 20 years.
Well, everybody, thanks a lot for listening to the Comic Book Vault, and remember that you can always send me things to review if you'd like to our P.O. Box. That's Geekvolution, P.O. Box 14183, Lenexa, Kansas 66285. And Eric, thanks a lot for joining me.
I also accept things if people want to give me things.
Cool. What do you have an address?
If someone wants to send me something, they can contact me, and I will talk it over with them at that point.
Awesome, cool, okay. And everybody also remember, if you haven't noticed yet, but I'm sure you have by now, that Eric is back and making videos, and you can go to...
I am.
You can go to Eric's channel, blow some stuff up, dude, see what he's working on. And everybody, thanks as always for watching and listening. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
And I'll see you next time.
Bye.